Over time, every DJ finds a certain combination of songs that they've tried in front of a crowd that they know will work. Now, it's important to have a couple of these in the bag, as it can help you stand out as a DJ and help you keep the energy of the party going. But it's just as easy to get lazy and play the same or very similar set that can make you sound stale over time, especially if you play the same venues on a consistent basis. So let's go over some signs that you might be getting stale with your sets and give you some tips to help you avoid this from happening. And if you enjoyed tips and tricks videos just like this one, make sure you subscribe to this channel. So now let's get into those signs of your sets getting stale and some tips on how to avoid it. First, let's go over some signs that your sets might be getting a little stale. Sign number one, the mixes that you're used to doing that would get a great reaction from the crowd just aren't getting the same reaction anymore. Now, this happens to all DJs that have the same trick mixes or certain combinations of songs that they know will get a great reaction from the crowd, but as in anything, over time, if you do the same combinations of songs and the same trick mixes at the same times, it just loses its magic and the crowd just doesn't have the same reaction as it once did. Sign number two, the songs that you're playing are getting older and becoming out of style. Now, as time passes, certain trends in music will change, and unless you're playing a specifically themed night, certain genres and subgenres can fall out of favor for many crowds. And if you don't keep this in mind, it's very easy to become a DJ that many people think are out of style. And sign number three, in which I think is probably the worst, is if the staff at the venue can predict what song you're gonna play next. Now, this is something that I'm personally guilty of. When I was first starting and got my first residency, I would play the same venue every week, every Friday. And I would come in thinking I had these really creative mixes and I would do the same ones week in and week out. And eventually the staff figured out exactly what songs I was gonna play next. And it was kind of sad seeing them kind of predict what I was gonna do, and it really lost its magic. But at the same time, it really made me go back home, practice and think up some new routines, think up some new mixes, and really work on my craft to get better as a DJ. Now that we've gone over some signs that your sets might be getting a little stale, let's go over some tips to help you prevent that from happening. And tip number one would be to look for new music on a consistent basis. Now, this doesn't mean adding bunches and bunches of new tracks before every gig, but instead just keeping an ear out for tracks that you think might work in your sets and slowly adding them into your library. Now, Joey just did a video on how important it is to keep a nicely organized library and how important it is, especially in the age of digital DJing. So if you haven't had the chance to check out that video, I definitely recommend checking that out. And I wholeheartedly agree with him. Having a nicely organized library can really help you introduce new tracks into your sets by having nicely organized playlists or crates and making sure that you're not playing the same set over and over again. And this goes right into my second tip. Update your playlist on a weekly or monthly basis. Now, it's not only important to have new tracks sprinkled into your collection, but it's also important to make sure that you're updating your playlist or crates on a consistent basis as well. If you don't update those playlists, it's really easy to fall into playing the same sets over and over. But if you're updating those, taking songs out and adding songs in, it really makes it easier to refresh your set and make sure that you're always playing something new. Now, the third tip that I have is to use what I like to call the sandwich method. And that is to play a track that you know that the crowd's familiar with, that you think they might love, and following that right up with a new song that might fit the vibe of the party and the kind of set that you're playing that you think they might love, and then following that right up with another song that they're familiar with that you know that they'll love. Now, the reason to do this is that if you start off strong with a song that you know that'll get a great crowd reaction, it's really easy to take a risk with a new track that might go well, might not, but you have that safety net of that third track that you know that'll get that great crowd reaction. And that safety net is so important because it's kind of a way to experiment and test new tracks to see if they'll work in your set in the future, or if they don't, well, at least you have that third track ready to go and you can get right out of that second track and you can keep the party rolling and keep your sets nice and fresh. And my final tip is to make small changes to your mixing style. Now, this could be using the EQs in a different way, using different kinds of transition techniques, maybe dropping from the one or smooth longer blends, or even using different kinds of effects that you might not normally use. Now, I'm not saying to use all of these at once, but just slowly integrate these into your sets. And not only will these change up your sets and keep them from being stale, but it also adds new tools to your toolbox as a DJ and will make you a better DJ overall. Remember, music evolves over time and your set should evolve as well. New music comes out all the time and people forget about older hits that have become nostalgic. Part of a DJ's job is to introduce new music to the crowd as well as remind them of older songs that they once loved that they may have forgotten about. And these tips will help you do just that. always be on the lookout for new music and methodically add it to your collection, update your playlist on a consistent basis, use sandwich methods to introduce new tracks safely to your audience, and finally, use new mixing techniques to change the sound of your DJ sets. Now, if you keep all of these in mind, your sets will never sound stale and will always stay fresh. Now, we hand it off to you. What are some tips that you use to always keep your set sounding fresh? Go ahead and leave that down in the comments below. We'd love to hear what you guys have to say. And if you haven't already, make sure that you subscribe to this channel for more tips and tricks and videos just like this one. Now, get good, get out there, and make the moments.